Hey guys, so today I'm here with the DV8 off-road high clearance rear bumper with LED lights, fitting all 2018 and newer JL Wranglers. So if you're looking for some extra protection, style, and some extra utility out of the back end of your Wrangler, this option by DV8 is going to be a really good one to take a look at. So this is going to offer you full-length protection with its heavy-duty construction and also a little bit of utility with the recovery points for that extra insurance while you're out on the trail if you do get into a sticky situation. Now this is also going to come with two pre-installed LED lights that's going to provide some extra visibility out of the rear end of your Wrangler, whether you're going to wire them up as reverse lights or even just use them as work lights. Now this is going to accommodate for some of those factory features, including rear backup sensors. You are able to keep your factory tow hitch if you are equipped with that, and this is also going to come with a license plate relocation bracket and even a light for that. Now I personally like the fact that it accommodates for all of that, but it's also going to achieve a very aggressive and off-road look to the back end of your Jeep. Now this is also going to be pretty affordable at roughly $550 for what this is, especially with the fact that it comes with those LED lights in the back. Now when comparing this to a couple other options on the site, a lot of them won't come with those extra LED lights, and some of them won't even have the option for those backup sensors if you guys are equipped with those in your JL. So I personally like the fact that it gives you that choice. Now one thing that this bumper does not come with that makes it so affordable is the fact that this is not able to mount up a spare tire carrier. It's not able to accept one, and it doesn't come with one. And usually when you take a look at some of those more expensive options, you'll usually see that they either come with one or they'll be able to accept one if you look to upgrade in the future. Now in my personal opinion, I think if you're looking for a lot of protection, utility, and even style at a very affordable price point, then this option by DV8 is going to be right up your alley. So install is going to be a little bit more difficult than the average bumper just because we are doing some wiring with these LED lights, and I'm going to put it at a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about 2 hours to get the job done with some pretty basic hand tools and those extra wiring tools. But speaking of the install, let's jump into that now. The tools that I used for my install were an air ratchet, a trim removal tool, an impact wrench, a pair of pliers, a pair of wire cutters, strippers, and crimpers, 21mm socket, 16mm socket, 12, 10, and 8mm socket, T40 Torx bit from the JL toolkit, an extension, a 3/8 inch drive and 1/4 inch drive ratchet, and the ratchet from the JL toolkit. So our first step is just to take off our spare tire to give us some extra room, but we have to take off our backup camera cover first. So I grabbed the ratchet as well as the T40 Torx out of our JL toolkit, and we can turn that to unlock it. So once it's turned to the unlocked position, we can just pull back and then we can take off our spare tire. So I'm using our spline tool for our lug nuts as well as a 21mm socket, but it will depend on what lug nuts you have. So what we can do next is remove our plastic trim pieces on the inside. You're going to have 3 8mm screws, so I'm going to use an air ratchet just to make it a little bit easier and faster, and an 8mm socket. So after that trim piece is removed, we'll be able to access our bumper bolts, and then we can do the same thing on the other side. So our next step is to remove the 2 bolts on the side of the frame that's holding on our bumper bracket. I'm going to use a 16mm socket and my impact wrench to remove those. And then we can do the same thing on the other side. So there's another bracket in front of our body mount here. I'm going to use that same 16mm socket to remove those bolts from the bumper. So we can repeat that on the other side. So before we can fully remove our bumper, we do have to disconnect our harness here. I have a trim removal tool. I'm just gonna pop this out of place and push this clip back, make sure it's unlocked. Then we can depress that clip, pull back, and now we can remove our bumper. So once you have the brackets around the body bolts, you should be able to pull the bumper right off. So after you take the bumper off, you're gonna be left with the brackets that were mounted up to the bumper. I'm gonna use a 21mm socket to remove the 2 bolts on the passenger side. You can unhook that and put that aside and move to the driver's side. Now with this side, you're gonna have 2 of the same bolts, but you're also gonna have 2 underneath that are supporting your tow hook here. I'm gonna use that same 21mm socket to remove those. So with this last bolt, just make sure you have a hand on your tow hook. Tow hook and unhook our bracket. So before we go ahead and install our new DV8 rear bumper, I did want to tell you guys a little bit more about it and what benefits that you're going to see out of this new setup in comparison to your factory rear bumper. So right off the bat, this is going to be roughly the same size. It's going to be the same length and give you that wraparound protection, but on the DV8 bumper, the ends are going to be angled up for better clearance and better departure angles while you're out on the trail. So not only is it going to be a lot better on that front, it is going to be a lot more durable as well. Your factory bumper is made of a plastic material, which is not going to hold up very well if you take a hit. And with this new DV8 rear bumper, that's going to be made out of a steel plate construction, so it will be able to take some abuse. Now this is also going to have a black powder coat finish on there, which will be textured, so it's going to match with any other heavy duty accessories, and it's also going to protect that steel underneath from any rust or corrosion. Now there's a couple of different benefits on this rear bumper that's going to add some utility in comparison to your factory one. So this is going to have 2 welded D-ring mounts on either side, which is a perfect recovery point if you do get into a sticky situation on the trail. You're also getting a larger cutout in the middle for a larger wheel and tire for your spare tire carrier, and this is also going to have 2 LED lights right on the back. Now this is going to have a high and a low beam, so we're going to wire them up in just a second, and the low beam is going to go to our reverse lights and our high beam is going to go to a switch, so you have that dual action there, so you will have a lot more visibility out of the back end of your Wrangler in comparison to your factory setup that doesn't have any lights at all. Now you also are going to retain some factory features with this. DV8 does include a license plate mount with an LED for your license plate. You're getting the option to add your factory backup sensors if you're equipped with those, and you have a cutout on the bottom for a tow hook. So what I also like about this bumper is the fact that you're able to keep some of your factory features. Now you have a cutout on the bottom, perfect for a tow hitch that comes out of the factory or even an aftermarket one. You have cutouts all around the bumper for backup sensors from the factory if you are equipped with those. And you also are getting a license plate bracket and a light for your license plate so you can stay legal while you're driving around on the street. So enough from me about these 2 bumpers. Let's go ahead and mount up our new one. So before we can mount up our bumper, we do have to insert our welded nut plate into the frame on the passenger side, just because we don't have a tow hook or any threaded bolts on our frame already, and then we can grab our bumper as well as a friend and mount it up. So now with a friend, we can mount up our bumper using our smaller hardware to mount up the sides. Now we're not going to tighten anything down just yet because we have to get our bolts on the underside of the frame on. So after we finish threading in both sides of the bumper on the frame, what we can do is head underneath the frame. So we're going to secure the driver's side first with the longer provided hardware into the factory location. So then we can grab our provided hardware for the nut plate and thread that through the bumper, through the frame, into the nut plate. So I have my finger there just trying to hold it in place. So now we can start tightening everything up with the 21mm socket. Then we can repeat that process on the other side. So before we go ahead and wire anything up, what we're going to do first is add our license plate bracket. Now it has a rib nut on the back here, so we're just going to place this up on top, grab our provided hardware that was provided in the kit, and thread that up through the bumper. Do that for both mounting holes. And then we can tighten them down with a 10mm socket, and I'm also going to use an extension just to give myself a little bit of room. All right, so now we can start wiring. So we're going to start our wiring with our license plate light. Now you are left with 2 leads, so we are going to extend our wires to reach to our factory harness. Now I'm going to use a pair of butt connectors up at the top, and then at the bottom I'm going to put a spade connector and attach that to our vampire clip that's going to go on our factory positive and negative wire. So first we can strip these 2 wires. Do the same with our wire extensions. And we can attach these together. Then we can do the same thing for our positive wire. So after they're connected, what I'm going to do is run them back behind the bumper just to measure out how far we actually need our extended leads to be. And then we can go back and trim them and also add our spade connector. So we don't really need all that much. So we actually can cut off a pretty big portion. And we can strip the ends of our leads and add our spades. So I would recommend to either heat shrink the connector, or you could also wrap some heat shrink in this just to make sure that these are protected. But once those are on, what we can do is grab our clips and go to our factory harness. So now that we have our factory harness, you can tell that there is a white wire with a blue pinstripe and then a black wire. So we're going to connect our vampire clips to both of them. If it doesn't clip right away by hand, you can use a pair of pliers to get through that wire there. Right. And then the same with the black wire. Right, and when they're both clipped, what we can do is take our leads with the spade connectors and plug them into each of the connectors. So black with black, and then the red with the white wire with the blue pinstripe. All right, now you can tell that there's a little bit of excess. That's okay. What we can do is take a zip tie and just tuck that up. So when it comes to the LEDs in the bumper, you can wire these up really however you'd like. Now, how I'm gonna do it is use the Raxiom LED lighting switch kit. So this is gonna come with a switch, a fuse, and an inline relay. And that is a little bit of a safer option instead of just wiring them up straight to your battery. So there are spade connectors in here for the individual lights. So if you are looking for a universal wiring harness, this is a really good option. Now, what we're gonna do is wire the white wire, which is going to be our low beam, into our reverse light and our tail light. And we'll do that the same way that we did our LED light for our license plate. Now for the other two wires, those are gonna be for our high beam. We're gonna wire those into our switch kit so that we can actuate that with a switch so that we have a spotlight on the back of our bumper. So we will have to extend all of those wires just like we did with our license plate light. So I'm gonna put this wiring harness aside so we can go ahead and start that. So what I'm gonna do first is kind of place this over towards the battery where we need to connect it, because we're gonna run the wires through first, connect everything, and then we can hook it up to the battery. So I'm just going to place this over on the other side. So once that's on the other side, what we can do is take our switch wire. We can take the actual switch off just to make it a little bit easier to go through our firewall. And then there's going to be a hole right next to your brake master cylinder, and we can send that right through there, and it should drop out in the footwell. So while I'm feeding that through, it should be coming out on the other side. And then what we can do is take our spade connectors. This is what we're going to attach our negative and our positive connectors to. And we can feed this down into the wheel well through our fender to go over and align with our body. We just want to make sure that this drops down. Then we can run this along our body and measure out our leads. So while we're here, we can attach our switch. So after it's connected, you can really stick this wherever you'd like, since it does have 3M on the back. I'm just gonna put it next to our steering wheel. So then it's easily accessible. And then we can tuck all of this wire up underneath our dash here, just clean it up with a couple of zip ties, and move on to the rest of our wiring. So starting off with the driver's side leads, what we're gonna do is connect a yellow wire to our white wire here, and this is going to run into our turn signal for our reverse lights. Now the other two, we will attach those to the other side's leads that we're going to attach in just a second. So I am just going to add a butt connector onto the white wire. Then I can crimp that down with some crimping pliers. Attach the other end of our lead. I just grabbed a long loom of wire. We will be able to measure this out just like we did with our license plate light. But once that's connected, you can do the same thing for the other two wires on the other side. We're gonna leave these open so we can connect both of them. So once you've extended all three wires on the other side, what we're gonna do is measure out our passenger side leads to match our driver side, because we're gonna splice these into each other to reach up to our front wiring harness. So I am just going to shorten these up. Then we can twist our wires together. Grab a connector. Put those in the same side and crimp them down. Do the same thing with our negative wire. So now we can grab a longer loom of wire and attach it to these two butt connectors so we can run this up to our spade connectors up front on our wiring harness. Right, so now that those are connected, what we can do is run these along our frame and meet the spade connectors. So in doing this, I'm gonna run this as tightly across the frame as I can. So going behind the shock, above our control arms here, right along our body mounts. So this is where they're roughly gonna meet. Now I am gonna leave a bunch of slack in this, just so when we tuck this up and hide it and clean it up with some zip ties, we have some room to work with. So I am actually gonna cut these off at this point. Then we can add spade connector, just like we did with our license plate light. And then once those are connected, we can connect these to our wiring harness. Now obviously, again, we're gonna clean this up in just a second, but now we can move on to our reverse lights. So in order to tap into our taillight, we will have to remove it. So we are in our cargo area. There is a little cover here. I'm gonna use a pry tool and just pop this cover out. And then that's going to expose a plastic bolt. So I'm gonna use our JL Toolkit's T40 Torx and the ratchet, and we can go ahead and remove that. It is gonna be a little bit difficult to see because it is recessed in there. But once it's completely unthreaded, you'll see that it's just a white plastic bolt with a spring-loaded spring. So once that is disconnected, what we have to do is just lightly pull back on our taillight. Then we can pull up on this tab. So once that red clip is pulled up, we can disconnect that and we'll be able to tap into this here. So this is connected, but I wanted to show you guys which wires that we're gonna be connecting to. So the orange and purple wire on this side of the connector, that's gonna be your reverse light. So the orange is gonna be your power, and then the purple is gonna be your ground. Now on this side, since this aligns with the same pins, this is where we're gonna put our connector. So the white wire with the brown trace is gonna be our power for our reverse light, and then the black wire is gonna be for our ground for the reverse light. So we're gonna put the tail light aside. And this is just a little bit easier to tap into this side, just in case you have to remove your taillight to replace a bulb or anything. It is just easily removable. We're gonna put that aside, and then we can run our wires to attach them to our white wire with the brown stripe. So now we're gonna take our wire, run that up through. There's an access hole right on the back there. Now I'm gonna make sure that this is pretty tight. You definitely don't need all of this extra wire, but it's better safe than sorry. I'm just gonna trim this off. Strip the end of this wire. And I'm gonna add one of our spade connectors because we'll be adding a vampire clip onto our factory harness. That way it's just a little bit easier and it's already protected since it's inside our Wrangler. So we're just gonna let this hang out for a second. Tuck that so you don't lose it. Then again, it's gonna be this white wire here, brown stripe. Hook our connector around that, it might be tight. So once that's clipped, what we can do is just plug this into the back of our vampire clip. Then we can do the same thing on the other side. So after this is connected, what we can do is just reinstall our taillight, plugging this connector back in, pushing down that red clip, tucking our wiring inside and lining up the 2 pins here. Right? Once it's flush with the body of the Jeep, we can reinstall that bolt on the back. And then we can tighten it down with the ratchet. Now, I would recommend to not over tighten this. This is a plastic bolt. You definitely don't want to strip it or break it. But once that's all tight, what we can do is just pop this cover back on. And then we repeat that process on the other side. So on the passenger side, this is going to be the same setup for the wires. However, the power wire is a different color. It's a white wire with a purple stripe instead of a white wire with a brown stripe, but it's in the same location and we can repeat that same process. So once all of that extra wiring is done, what we can do is connect our leads on our wiring harness to our battery. Now I'm going to start with our positive wire. And using a 12mm socket, I'm going to attach the lead to one of our accessory posts here. Now we can attach our negative. I'm going to use a 10mm socket. We can tighten that back down. Last but not least, we can tuck up all of our wiring and attach our spare tire, and then we'll be all set to go. So that's gonna wrap it up for my review and install. Make sure you like and subscribe, and for more videos and products like this, always keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.